The American Rescue Workers and the next segment of our anti-bullying theme, coming up now on Joy in the City True Stories. Joy in the City is a program highlighting people and organizations having an impact in our city. All too often, we hear about the problems and dysfunction in our culture. But we are coming with a different approach as we take a look at all the good things going on right here in our community. I'm Bethany Marshall, and you are about to see what God is doing in our city. We want to thank our program sponsors, Park Home, for the donation of furniture used in our studio, Taylor Design and Events for beautifully decorating our studio space, and our platinum sponsor, Harry's Construction, for their ongoing support of Joy in the City. Loving each one into God's kingdom, one soul at a time, is a true representation of the work being done by the American Rescue Workers. Deborah LaValla, director of the ministry here in Blair County, shared with us the work that they are doing in our area.
So first of all, thank you for joining with me today. Appreciate you stopping by. And let's talk a little bit about what you do. What is American Rescue Workers?
American Rescue Workers is a nonprofit. We do different things in different communities depending on what the need is. It's a national organization. However, when we come into a community, we kind of assess what's going on, what the needs are, and go from there. So we're not duplicating services that are already available. So in the Hollidaysburg, Blair County area, we're the primary food pantry.
Is the organization as a whole a faith-based organization?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool.
It's actually, if you were to look it up in a book, it is a church.
It's listed as
it as a church.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a church with a nonprofit. Sometimes I say it's like a two-headed
sort of like the
monster.
Salvation Army.
Yeah.
Is
Is there a gathering? Like a church gathering?
Right now we're at Bible studies on Wednesday
We have
night.
a small chapel.
We have a small chapel.
Okay.
We're going to do a Bible study every Wednesday night.
So food pantries specifically for what? Anything in particular, or just anybody who has need of food?
There are some criteria because we are under the Pennsylvania Food Bank per se, and we also work with the Department of Agriculture, so there are some criteria to be met. We're serving the southern tier of Blair County, so that includes Hollidaysburg, Duncansville, East Freedom, Roaring Spring, Newry, and Martinsburg. There are other food pantries in Altoona, and so we don't overlap to make sure we're not duplicating services in the area. And it's basically anyone in need that qualifies. There are some things to fill out and go from there. We do some emergency orders as well, and many times we have an abundance of donations. And so when we do that, that's a giveaway, and that's open to anyone in Blair County.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So as far as the title of American Rescue Workers, understanding the food needs and so forth, what other entities or areas do you provide and help in?
We help also in lodging for like a homeless person or something like that. This is as funds allow. We also help with utility assistance when people have shut-off notices. Again, sometimes those donated areas, depending on a grant or the donor-specific restrictions, they can be regulated to just one area. So it just, on those things, it depends on what we have available at the time. We also take in donations, and we call them material goods. It can be clothing, household. We don't really have space in our facility for large pieces of furniture, but we will network to put individuals in need with donors who may have those items and coordinate that so that a person who, for instance, needs a bed and someone who has a bed to give, we'll try to make that happen and work out the logistics of getting the donor item to the person in need.
Okay, so what brought you to Central Pennsylvania area?
there was an empty space here with the American Rescue Workers. The previous officer in charge had retired and they had an empty space. Prior to that, we were in Canton, Ohio, and there we ran 2 shelters for homeless. So the American Rescue Workers does various things as a national organization. The one here has been here since the 1920s, I think more fully operational since probably the 1950s. But as a national organization, it's been incorporated since 1884. So it's a long-standing service. Sometimes it's the best kept secret in town. So the people who need the services find out about us, but other people who want to support the services don't always know about us.
Absolutely. Well, it's just one of the things we're doing today, bring a little more awareness. Because I think that this is as an organization, it's something that we have heard of. Many people have heard the title and the name, but exactly what it is, where you are, what you do. So hopefully that maybe some people that are watching this get an idea of a little more. How long have you guys been with the organization?
2007?
Yes.
2007.
2007.
February.
We came on board full-time 2007. Prior to that, my family's been affiliated with American Rescue Workers since the late 1970s. So I've probably had experience with a whole realm of different services that they provide in different areas.
And in general, how has COVID and all of this currently impacted what you do, the services you provide? How has that been?
The COVID crisis has been a unique experience, I'm sure, for everyone. In our food pantry, we went from March serving nearly 200 families a month to April serving 600 families a month, which put a huge strain on us because we lost volunteers in the interim as well because of some of the restrictions and some people who just wanted to avoid additional contact and things like that. As restaurants were shut down, we received larger and larger quantities of food, and we had to work diligently to get it moved around quickly. And we worked with places like the YMCA and others who could help us network to make sure that that food got into the hands of the people that could use it as quickly as possible. Sure. So we've seen that. Now going forward, we have a couple of Christmas programs. We do one Christmas for kids, and we typically have around 200 children that we provide Christmas for. We also have a Secret Santa for seniors bag that we do, and again, that can reach the max of about 200 seniors that we provide something for Christmas. This year, it's kind of up in the air. We've had a lot of people coming forward to help us kind of coordinate, prepare, but with a lot of unknowns out there, it's hard to know how we're going to facilitate all of those things. Sure. It definitely doesn't look like anything we've ever seen before.
And this is something that no one's ever experienced before, for the most part, that everything's very unique, and we're trying this, trying that to figure out the best way to do things in ministry and everything. What do you see the greatest need that you have as an organization right now?
Well, there's always a financial situation. I hate to be that person, money and all that stuff. But it is what it is. It is what it is. I do want to say we're faith-based, and God has been really good to us. God continues to pour out blessings. We continue to give it out, and somehow the storehouse gets filled again. So we're very, very thankful for that. Very thankful for our generous donors. One thing that's different about the Blair County American Rescue Workers and a lot of other areas where American Rescue Workers have gone, they use thrift stores and other things as support. We don't have that here. Any donations that we receive are given out, and we charge nothing for that. So we depend on the generosity of the community to keep us afloat, to keep us going. And this is an extremely generous community. And so we host a non-event every year. That's one of our biggest fundraisers that we do. And, you know, a lot of organizations have dinners or some type of meeting. They charge a ticket price and stuff. We do a non-event where we don't have that, but we solicit. Yeah, we don't invite you. But we solicit donations that way. Well, this year we did not do that since there were already so many real non-events, and we felt like it doesn't work this year. And so we're just relying on the community to continue to support us and to do what they do. And so,
now you mentioned it's faith-based, and how does that play a role in this? What part of what you do for the community has a faith element to it, other than just believing for God to provide? But is there a place for ministry? How does that work?
Yeah, I feel like I know the reason that we're there is because we love the Lord. That's the reason we're there. And so we're loving God by serving others. And so that's what we do. We don't put that on to anyone else. If you come to our food pantry to get food, that's what you're there for, to get food. But if you come to our food pantry and there's a real crisis situation, and I hear the tears, and I'm witness to these things, I may ask someone, would you like us to pray for you? And if that person would like that, then sure, we open that door. And many times people come to us and ask us for that because they're looking for more than just physical food. They're seeking the spiritual food. They're seeking, you mentioned COVID, in a time when things are so uncertain, they're seeking something that is certain, and we have an answer for that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming by and talking a little bit about this, and I pray that as people become more familiar with it, even through this show, that they can see maybe ways to support you, whether through volunteer or financially. Obviously, we'll always take finances.
Yes.
And just want to say thank you for stopping by today.
Sure.
And I pray that God will continue to bless you and what you guys do with this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
If you know a person or organization impacting our city, we want to hear about it. You can contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@joyinthecity.org.
Today's Platinum sponsor is Harry's Construction, whose motto is, if you can dream it, we can create it. Recently opening Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center so you, the consumer, can see examples of the variety of services provided by the team at Harry's Construction. Regardless of the project size, Harry's team approaches each project as if it is his own home. Be sure to visit Harry's Construction Kitchen and Bath Center at 114 Main Street in Bellwood. You can also visit their website to see pictures of home improvement projects over the years. Thanks again to Harry Halk and the team for supporting Joy in the City.
As we continue our monthly theme on anti-bullying, we hear from Devin Spradling. Devin is a young man who has made the topic of bullying as one of his key issues to combat in his public service endeavors. Troy Ferguson and Devin discuss his personal experience on this topic.
Well, Devin, thank you for coming and spending a few moments with me.
Thank you.
This month we're talking about bullying and the effects and the different things. First of all, from your perspective, what is bullying?
I believe bullying is any type of, derogatory statements or actions done against another individual. Whether that individual is, smaller in stature, any type of, feature or part of that person's appearance that may make them, inferior towards another person. It's any kind of, type of derogatory statement or action towards another.
And Do you feel that bullying is an issue in this area?
Oh, absolutely. I've had far too many conversations with different youth and parents, families who have all either been through it or know a student that has gone through it. Too many to count, unfortunately.
So let's talk a little bit about some of your experiences and how bullying has impacted your life. If you can, tell us what are some specifics of actions or words that has had a significant impact on you?
Well, when I was first bullied, it was when I transitioned in junior high. And, small things, making fun of my parents, the ugly loser, this typical stuff, like kind of see on TV. And it really progressed, particularly after I had reported it to an adult. It was actually when it got worse for me. The people who were bullying me would instigate an entire classroom against me in the midst of presentations and started sabotaging some friendships that I'd actually had. So it progressed to a very bad point for me. And one of the worst experiences that I had with it was actually in 9th grade. I remember an instance I was in homeroom. We were rehearsing a skit that we were performing for 6th grade orientation in a few weeks. And 2 people in my class had brought up a note from the lunchroom. They said, "Devin, you're in this letter." And I was reading it, and it happened to be between 2 people whom I had called friends up until that point. And I kind of remember the pretty disturbing image that they had drawn of me personally. It was me hanging from a tree. And I remember that moment, my heart and everything just sank. Not only losing 2 people I had called friends, but coming down to a place where I looked at that and said, is that really how people feel about me? And from there, I lost a tremendous amount of my self-image and self-worth, and it really brought me into a really bad, year and a half or so of depression, and I'd thought almost every day about taking my life, and one moment where I was very close to doing so. And I remember just something told me not to do it. And if I had to look back to that moment, I realize now it was like it was God speaking then for me not to do it. Although in that moment I didn't know, but something was in me telling me to stop. And after that point, it was 7 months later, my life really began to turn around.
So in those moments, someone you called a friend, a few people you've called friends, and you hear how they talk about you, how challenging is it to go through your day-to-day educational learning and so forth when you have that burden on your shoulders? How did you make it through?
It was particularly difficult for me because I was an honor student. I had some of the top grades in my class. So I not only had this pressure from those around me to continue to do well, from my family to continue to do well, but it was battling through the pure emotions that I was experiencing of being bullied. Because I would go and sit down and do my work, and I just didn't feel like doing it. And somehow I managed to press through it and kind of detach myself in those moments. But it was hard because at some point, in a day, I would just sit there and I'd have to face the reality of what I'd gone through and what people were saying about me, what people were speaking over me, and trying to battle through the different things that, I was dealing with in my own mind, trying to filter through what I thought was true about me and what I thought just other people were saying about me. It was a real it was a real identity crisis for me, because I'd known, who I thought I was, and I had all these other people telling me these different, this ugly and loser and nerd and all of these different terms and statements that people were throwing at me, and trying to filter what was really true to me.
Did things ever become physical? Did bullies become physical with you, or is it mostly verbal?
It was all verbal and emotional for me. There were times, people and classmates would purposely isolate me when it came to group activities. And obviously, there were some times that bullies would actually sabotage some of my personal relationships and friendships that I had had with people, getting in between and trying to, spread gossip and spread lies that would pit people against me. And so it was a very strong mental effect that all that had on me.
So, a few years later, obviously, you're an adult. How has those experiences shaped and affect you even today?
I say this particularly as a Christian. One thing that God's really helped me with is I'm able to see myself how He sees me, rather than how other people see me. And so I have to filter what other people say about me, through God and prayer and the Bible, filtering what's true with what's not true. And my personal faith has really helped me solidify my identity and who I am, and ultimately increase my self-worth and how I see myself.
If somebody would be watching that is a bully, what is something that you would like to say to them to make them aware of what they do to kids like you and other situations? Something that you could say to them.
They always have that saying. There's that saying, that sticks and stones break your bones, but words will never hurt me. And I would say that words hurt more, I believe, in what sticks and stones can do. Sticks and stones can hurt the body, but the body eventually heals. Sometimes we speak words over people, we say things to people, and it hurts them and traumatizes them for a lifetime. And I know that a lot of times people who bully, they're going through hurts, because hurting people hurt people. And I'd say to those people who are bullies, that if there's hurt in their life, they should seek help for that. But ultimately think about the consequences, that they're having on other people. Is it really worth hurting somebody else to try to make yourself feel better, or to dodge the reality of the hurt you're experiencing?
Yeah. As I personally have studied this, a lot of times years ago, bullying would be just about something that kids dealt with at school. Yeah. Nowadays, obviously, with cyberbullying and everything else, it's much more expansive. Mm-hmm. Did you deal with any of that from the aspect of when you were in school? Was cyberbullying a thing at that point?
It wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. I mean, when I was in school, Facebook was hardly popular. It was existing, but I personally wasn't even on it yet. So a lot of the bullying I dealt with was, in person. But obviously now, it's the largest source of bullying. It's about 35%, particularly, here in our county, in Blair County. 35% of the bullying happens by phone or texting, social media. So it's much bigger now than it was then.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing your heart, sharing some of your experiences. I know it's not easy, and our prayer is that somebody will watch this and realize, first of all, that if they're experiencing something similar, they're not alone. And secondly, if someone is a bullying, even if they're a bully unaware, that maybe they'll watch this and realize that they need to change some behaviors. So thank you for your time today.
Amen. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
Bullying is something we are all familiar with, but are we really aware of its long-lasting effects on children, youth, and adults? We discuss this issue with those who have been victims, perpetrators, community leaders, and clinical professionals during October, which is National Bullying Prevention Month. Be sure to watch Joy in the City each Sunday at 12:30 p.m. on ABC 23. To wrap up today's show, Troy Ferguson shares a few final thoughts.
When we plan out our days, our weeks, and months, we have an idea of what we want to get accomplished in that time period. The goal is what we set our focus on until our enemy or our competitor disrupts that point of focus. For example, if you look at how our politicians promote themselves in this day and age, it's not on what they will do or what they will accomplish, but they focus on what their competitor isn't doing or hasn't done. That's called negative advertising and is often effective. But that's not how we should look at how we achieve our dreams and goals. Our attention needs to be on what's in front of us, in particular, on who's in front of us. I want to look at the character of Jesus. He didn't have a specific market he reached. He ministered to the person in front of him, whoever it was. At the time, he moved in compassion. It could have been the woman with the issue of blood. It could have been the blind man or someone with a simple fever. Jesus focused on the need in front of him, and with compassion, he responded. In our journey, we have to be careful not to get caught up in what our competitor is doing or what the enemy is doing, but focus on what we're called to do. Many of you have heard of Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He said this about his company: the most important single thing is to focus obsessively on the customer. Our goal is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. And that right there is a concept we should have with every relationship and interaction we have. Be attentive to the person in front of you and not the unseen enemy, and you will have a blessed week. I promise.
If you have a personal story or testimony you would be willing to share with our community, we'd love to chat with you about it. Please contact us at 814-944-1948 or by email at stories@jointhecity.org. That's all the time we have today. Thanks for watching Join the City True Stories. Let me encourage you to watch other episodes of people and organizations having an impact in our community on ABC 23 at 5:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. every Sunday. You can also catch us each week on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Until then, be encouraged because God is moving in our city.